Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Business Coaching Secrets. It is your boy Christian here, aka the Road Dog, and alongside my buddy, my pal, no other than the king himself, Mr. King Karl Bryan, sir.
Yo ho ho, Road Dog. How goes it, my brother? What's happening?
It is going as good as can be when you're, just living the life of quarantine, right?
The quarantine life. Who would have thunk, man? But here we are. What the heck?
But here we are.
Drink beer 6 feet from one another. So
that's it. You start doing some wild stuff. I removed 29 cedar bushes from my backyard yesterday, so that's fun.
You well done, dude. High five. Your wife is going to be. You're in the good graces with the wife, dude. Well done, man.
Yeah. It's those things when you start something and you're like, oh, this may have just been a terrible idea. This is going to be a lot longer. Yeah, that's what that turned into.
Pretty much every time I do anything that resembles yard or kitchen work, I pretty much have that same sense run over me. So
yes, I can testify. I can collaborate that story. I have seen you attempt projects in the past, and it is indeed a frightening thing. So
not pretty.
Listen, folks.
Pretty. All right.
This is not the handyman show. He is no Tim the Toolman Taylor. He is Karl Bryan. Let's, as they say, stay in your lane. So on that note, shall we get started?
We shall. All right. Let's do it.
Okay, so here's one that we hear a fair bit, and it's a good one. All right, you ready? I'm struggling to get my coaching clients to follow through. Any advice? How often do we hear this, Karl? Like it's like a daily game for us. But let's hear it. What do you say to all the coaches that are having problems getting their clients to follow through?
So what do we say? So again, this has been answered, multiple times in different ways to do. But what would I say? Just number one, you're working with a new client. There's a chance that you're getting a little bit too strategic, a little bit too big picture. When I'm working with a client, you got to get runs on the board straight away. So the place to start, you've always got one eye on strategy, right? So what do they say that, strategy eats tactics for breakfast type of thing, right? Which holds true. That being said, progress equals happiness. You hear Road Dog say that all the time. So you got to make sure that you get you got to get some wins on the board to buy them some trust. And they're looking for progress equals happiness. So a positive step in the right direction will go well. So like another good example, okay, so like you're working with your client, you want to put a run on the board. And if you can cover your fees, obviously this makes sense. Like when you work with us, we just created some new training that quite frankly, to say that it's game changing, I would debatably say that it is the best 90 minutes I've ever seen in the business coaching space for finding your fees. But here's a small little snippet of it. You guys have heard me say this before, but I really want this to hit home. When you work with a company, and let's say that they have 20% margins and you earn them $1, right? So they go out and they cold call or they contact a past customer, this kind of thing. If they have 20% margins, if they earn $1, how much do they keep? And the answer is 20 cents, obviously. Well, when you go to their expenses, you go to their credit card statements, you go to their, the money's going out, and you save them $1, how much do they keep? And the answer is 100 cents, right? So there's basically if an expense doesn't do one of two things, that's bring in a client or continue a relationship with a client, then it probably can go. Not every time. This is not black and white, but I'd say a solid 85% of the time, those expenses can go, right? So In other words, revenues aren't going to be hampered, and if they're able to keep 100 cents on every dollar that they go out and save or negotiate, very important word there, teach them to negotiate, not just rule out expenses. Very, very powerful. So, and what's that going to do? That's going to put a run on the board and make them realize, holy smokes, I'm making like, my coach is actually paying their stinking way. How many people can actually say that, right? Another important, so look, the bottom, you're trying to motivate your client. You guys heard this before, but again, you go skiing and there's a map. Okay, the most important part of every map on the planet is the little arrow that says you are here. Or if you're in your car back in the day and you're folding out your map, I know nowadays we have this thing called Google Maps, but anyways, go with me here. But like where you take your finger and stick it, I know Road Dog's going to say something silly in a minute. But anyway, so the where you take your finger and put it on the map, you are here. This is the most important thing. So your coaching client, where are you? Like, where are they at? Like, what motivates them? If you start with Tony Robbins, one of the first thing he does is he goes through these. You got these, 6 human needs. What are they? Certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, significance, growth, and contribution. Right. So those are the nuts and bolts. Really, what he wants to know is what motivates you. Right. Like I'm motivated to a large degree through certainty. When I was growing up, I had tumultuous. My brother committed suicide. My mother drank herself to death. My family home burnt down. I'm like the poster child for an entrepreneurial family, right? Where everything, separation and divorce and stepmommy who I couldn't stand, and on it goes, right? Not a horror. Well, it is a little bit of a horror story, but it has a happy ending. But the bottom line is I was that poster child. Well, it wouldn't, if you understand what I just said or you heard that about me, it wouldn't be a surprise that I like certainty, right? Like I'm just, happy in my little confines. I love to go out. I'm a little bit of an extrovert, but for the most part, being locked inside my house for the last, whatever it's been, month and a half, hasn't been horrific because this is pretty much where I am anyways. What am I getting at? Certainty is something that drives me. So uncertainty is something that I might be a little bit more cautious of than the average bear. So when I'm working with my client, if you understand that certainty drives them, provide them more certainty is what I'm getting at. If uncertainty drives them, maybe you're bringing in more surprise. This is somebody's going to get a little bit more excited by, the uncertainty of their business and that sort of thing. And I'm a little bit of a paradox there, but I won't go into that. The bottom line is what is it that motivates them? Like my 6-year-old daughter, she got to clean her room. It's a non-frickin' negotiable. She's cleaning her room, but sometimes I got to be playful. Sometimes I got to be demanding. Sometimes I got to go and help her clean her room. It's the same thing with brushing her teeth. Like I've got to, it's like a daily exercise, certainly a weekly exercise. The brushing the teeth is more than gladly be happy for her to know that that's not a weekly exercise, but it's an ongoing thing, right? So with your coaching client, because you take a demanding stance and it works, doesn't mean that it's going to work every time. So look, and the last thing that I would say on this, and I think it's very relevant, a lot of coaches, I think they lack certainty, they lack confidence in themselves, so they kind of coach not to lose their client, right? Think about that. Versus like, here's a way that I would motivate a lot of clients. Say, I get the fact that you see the reward, but I honestly, I don't think you'll follow through. I just don't. And then I shut up. Could you imagine, think of what that does for the average person. Like, I'm doing the takeaway. Well, all of a sudden now they want to stick it up me, right? Like, screw you, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm paying you. How dare you say that I'm not going to follow through? And I say, well, okay, but show me, right? I haven't seen anything to date. Like, you see how that's an example of me not coaching to not lose my client? That's coaching for me to get the result. Because do understand this. If they don't do the work, the penalty is that you lose the client, right? The client doesn't get the reward, but you lose the client, the end, right? So in other words, hunker down. And you know that old saying that it costs you, 20 nowadays, and some subjective number, frankly, but 22 times as much to get a new client as it does to save an existing one. So again, it just makes sense that you find a better way to motivate these folks and get them cranking. So Road Dog, that would be my answer of the day. It's a Choosing clients wisely would also help you with that one. But that being said, let's face it, most folks aren't in a position where they can be overly picky with that. But there is no doubt that if you find somebody super hungry, your relationship will be a lot easier. But that is my answer of the day, my brother.
So I'm not even touching the finger comment. The beauty is I don't even have to say, I have to say nothing. And yet you know exactly where I'm going with it. It's a beautiful thing. Hey, just on a quick note though, do you find that, like, again, like the number one, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the main reasons people don't make any progress because just sheer overwhelm. Do you think a lot of coaches come in, because I used to be in that boat. It's just like, okay, I got to come in this week with another home run idea. And it's like, you haven't even fully implemented the old idea yet. Do you think that's a part of the problem? It's always these home run ideas and thoughts of like people trying to justify, if you will, their coaching fee. I know that was me in the past, whereas now I'm starting to realize it's a lot more of just get them to do the basics, and guess what? They're going to make massive progress.
Less is more. 100%, man. Just like think about it this way: their to-do list is already like their to-do list, my to-do list, your to-do list, Road Dog. They're all too freaking long. Like we're not getting through them. The end. So what they got to do is they got to prioritize their day, and just the three most important things you need to get done today. Get them done immediately. Like get them done by 10 o'clock, and then it's like going for a 5-minute jog. Nobody goes for a 5-minute jog. But the beauty of a 5-minute jog is that you get your runners on, you get out of the house, you start the jog, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, I've gone this far, I might as well go. And next thing you know, 30-minute jog completed. But if you plan a 30-minute jog, you often won't put the shoes on, get out the door because it's too big, right? So it's of the same ilk. Less is more. Take play subtraction versus addition, right? So like when we work with our clients, we profit acceleration software, and we built all these cool tools that populate and create a really profitable roadmap for client and coach. And a lot of it is stripped down into 5 areas where you've got leads, conversions, transactions, pricing, and then profits. And the idea behind that is, without going too deep into it, is that you're pulling things away. Give them less to think about. Give them less to do. Because again, they've already got too much, but prioritize it. So let's go. So it's 80-20. Perry Marshall put a book out on 80-20 that's so freaking good. It's just unbelievable. But in essence, 80-20, we all know that one, right? But then there's 80-20 within the 20, right? So 20% of the 20 derives the majority of the 80 and the 20. Am I making sense here, Road Dog? Right? You got 80-20, and then you got 80-20, and then you got 80-20. Like it keeps going, and like 1 to 2% of their activity, you find like 2% of their activity will derive like 70% of their revenue, 70% of their productivity, but nobody ever takes a magnifying glass and puts it over top of that 20, which is absolutely critical. So to your point, Road Dog, what is it that you're going to prioritize rather than give them more to do? Find out what that 1% is, which by the way would be looking at the map and taking your finger and putting it on the "you are here." So now you understand, but that takes time, and that takes, frankly, a level of care, because you really got to ask some questions, and it's not very seldom does it jump out at you. Most definitely, you won't walk into somebody's office and they'll say, you know what, the 1% of my business that derives 70% of my revenue, the 1 to 2% that derives 70% of my revenue is this. Like that just will never happen, right? So it takes a level of care, attention to detail, and really lifting up some rocks and looking underneath to find them. So, but yeah, less is more, brother.
And I would also say, just from a coach's perspective, like a coach, really, you got 2 jobs. That's it. Get clients, keep clients. Like that's right. Like at the end of the day, that's it. So when you look at your to-do list, does it fall into one of those 2 categories? And if it doesn't, why? What are you doing? Right. So that's my 2 cents on that. So because that's the way that you can simplify it, right? Like it just makes your life so much easier. Okay. Fully have to admit, I did not see this email. So I apologize, Karl. I missed one of your emails. I know it's rare, but you freaking send out so much content these days. How the hell am I supposed to keep up? So I I'm going to blame China. So there you go. Okay. I saw an email where you said China was more advanced than North America. Do you see this having negative business implications? That's interesting. This could be a whole ball of wax, and I can't wait to see the rabbit hole that you're about to go down. So off you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, bloody good question. I think that we should all be, this is like a big picture, 30,000 foot overview, macro question. I think everybody should be asking it. I'll just tell you this, and I don't have the stats and all this stuff on this, but I can tell you that I'm pretty freaking close because I have studied it, kind of thing that I enjoy doing, sadly. But like if you look at degrees in a university, okay, engineering, and this is big time subjective and debatable, but engineering would be the most valuable degree to get, right? Like if you believe that Bill Gates is a smart guy, you might be thinking that he's trying to end the world right now. Really doesn't matter at the end of the day, undeniable, but he is a freaking smart individual. Well, engineering is his, the degree that he got, right? So engineering, if you could, if like my daughter, I actually have this thing with her all the time where I say math is easy, math is fun, and then I ask her, I go, what's math? And she goes, math is easy, math is fun, right? She's 6, and by the way, well, yeah, so she she pushes back a little bit. Sometimes she just says it, a little bit of fun. Why am I doing that? Engineering is effectively math, and that is, if I could persuade her to do a degree, there's a good chance that I tell her not to bother with the archaic educational system unless it's revamped big time. When, again, she's 6 years old, right? As she gets a little bit older. But if she is going to go to university, if I can have any say in it, I would say that engineering would be where I'd try to send her. Why am I saying that? China put out more engineers per year than I believe we have in North America combined. And they're pumping them out every year, right? And next year there'll be another lot and another lot and another lot. That should concern us a little bit. The artificial intelligence that they have would just blow your mind. In fact, I wrote an email about this not long ago, which I think she said that in the question here, right? That came from an email. So like if you play a game of hide and seek with the Chinese government, okay, and they'll give you 4 hours. They say, ready, set, go. They cover their eyes. You take off. You go from one city, literally jump in a plane, end up in, let's say, Shanghai. And then they say, ready or not, here we come. Within an hour, they will have you in handcuffs or with a pillowcase over your head or whatever the hell they choose to do. Maybe they'll just grab you and say, hey, man, here's a beer. I don't know what they'll do. But if you played that game with them, hide and seek, okay, then you're like, well, how the hell would they do that? Facial recognition software, right? So you see on Facebook everybody doing these aged photos and high school photos. Don't, please. It's too late anyways, quite frankly. But don't do it. All you're doing is giving away, and it's facial recognition. This is how they do it. If you go to a baseball game or a football game in China, and you're the guy who takes the beer can and throws it onto the field, again, and most definitely the next day, keep in mind we'll assume there's 50,000 people there, but you will be arrested with 100% certainty, and they will have the right guy. They have got that technology. We do not in North America, not even freaking close. Means that we're behind big time. I mean, they're just the bottom line is that China is ahead. The end. And again, remember, like if you see someone from China at the airport, I mean, for the last 2 years, you'd see them wearing masks, right? Well, guess what? You're going to go to the airport in 6 months' time, and you might be wearing a mask. I might be wearing a mask. Personally, this is something that I am going to fight to all in. I don't know. Wearing a mask. There's certain things in this world that, again, you're willing to die for. Remarkably, wearing a mask might be one of them for me because I'm just that pig-headed. I think that's up there with the most ridiculous, but who knows? Maybe I'll be wearing a mask one day. But it's crazy, but it's just more to the point. They're just a little bit more advanced. So what artificial intelligence, like you could say the internet has turned the business world upside down. In fact, I think it's painfully obvious that that's exactly what it's done. I mean, it's changed the face of business completely. Well, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and if you know nothing about what I'm talking about right now, you should go, and it's not like you need to become an expert, and don't feel like you got to become a programmer, to understand artificial intelligence. Like, just go understand the capabilities and where it's going, some of the applications, both for your clients and for you and for the interest and for, North America, and then what China, like I think a good exercise for everybody, and I haven't done this and I plan to do this, but jumping on a plane and going to China for a 2-week holiday is something that should potentially, and by the way, Asia, you don't need to go straight into China, but go to Asia and have a little bit of look around and have a look at the different lifestyle, some of the advancements, look around with those, that matrix type view, those spidey senses going, okay, well, why are they doing that? Where did this come from? What's the genesis? I don't know. I think that would be a really good learning experience for every business coach. I think everybody. I've got a good buddy who does a lot of business in China, and interesting times right now, because I think they're going to be punished wildly. I personally hope that they are punished wildly for this coronavirus dealio that appears to 100% have been started right there in their backyard. We didn't get intel, and we could have got intel long before we did. That could have helped greatly, but is what it is. So yeah. Look, are there implications? Friggin' you bet. Good and bad, and I think that you can't change it. It's back to that statement. Like, you gotta. Like, right now with the coronavirus, there's a lot of people talking about the coronavirus and solving the coronavirus. This is a problem that is not, right? Like, you're solving a problem that you're not capable of solving. The end, right? Just leave it to whether you agree with them or not. And actually, no, I want to rephrase that, because I don't believe in just sitting on the sidelines and not freaking saying anything, right? Like, I think our government officials, I wrote an email that got lots of publicities and lots of, zillion responses where I kind of just poke fun at the fact that these government officials who are making these decisions are making $250,000 and hanging out at their lake houses having their dream summer, right? Like, the endless summer is what I think I named it. Like, so I don't think you should just, sit back and relax. But that being said, say your piece, do whatever you can to hold them accountable, but don't try and solve the coronavirus pandemic, because frankly, you're just not going to. What problem can you solve? Pick up the phone and start talking to business owners, helping business owners, forming relationships, talking to accountants, talking to business brokers, talking to, chamber representatives if they're answering the phone, what have you, advertising mediums, newspapers and radio stations, and, digital marketing agencies and folks with some clout locally. That's what you can control. That is a solution that you can bring to the table. Sitting there trying to solve the coronavirus, which frankly a lot of people are doing, and you just look at their Facebook posts, is just not an effective use of your time. Bottom line, artificial intelligence. Look, this is something that I would be taking, a good hard look at, and just understanding machine learning and artificial intelligence and what it's going to mean for the future. And we are in catch-up mode, because they are light years ahead of us, and it is going to turn the business world up. Actually, did I finish that thought? If the internet has turned the business world upside down and changed it forever, artificial intelligence is going to do that and more. So put your seatbelt on and understand. You get intimidated by it, right? Well, there's no need to get intimidated by it. It's just like the internet. When you first got a cell phone or a smartphone, you looked at the thing, if you're anything like me, and you went, what the hell is this? And then now, you're very capable on your smartphone, and you're doing your thing and sharing stuff, blah, 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 downloading apps and going to the app store. Artificial intelligence will be the same. It's going to be intimidating as hell, and then it's not. So go with it. So there you go, bud. There's my answer.
Well, so I got a question for you. You talk about being intimidated and with cell phones and technology. You ready for it? What size font is on your phone for your emails? Like,
I have no idea.
How large?
Very large.
I can read it from across the room. Like,
I refuse to wear glasses. I flatly refuse. That's another thing. I'm too stupid. I don't know why I don't wear glasses, man. So you gotta read something.
Awesome. It is a sight to behold. Like, I looked at his phone. I'm like, what the hell are you looking at? Is that like a meme? It's like, no, this is my regular print size. I'm like, holy.
Good
Anyways,
story.
all right. So here's an interesting one. I don't think we've ever had a question like this before, which is funny because I've actually got some experience in this space. But somebody wrote in and says, "I have a client that wants to raise money for their natural gas business. Any tips or tricks?" I thought that was kind of sort of away from the norm of sort of what we are, but I guess we could translate it into just, I guess, generally people looking at raising money or helping their clients raise money. How
Yep.
would you answer that?
Yeah, I've had like business, as a business coach, they'll find themselves in that position. I mean, I wouldn't call it a common occurrence, but absolutely happens. Natural gas, first of all, know it too well. I grew up in close to Calgary, Alberta, which is, if you know Houston as an oil and gas mecca, Calgary is like the sister little brother to Houston. So know it real well. Oil and gas. So natural gas, I believe, and natural gas is also a little bit like artificial intelligence a minute ago. Natural gas is something that you might want to start getting your head around and understanding it. In fact, if you haven't, actually, Road Dog, I think I saw this on your Facebook page. But if you haven't seen the show, which again, this is a bit of a rabbit hole, but we won't go too deep here. But what is it? Planet of the Humans? Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Please go watch that. Road Dog, you watched it, right?
Well, I watched it. I was like Michael Moore, and I was like, "Oh my god, I don't like this guy at all." But holy smokes, folks! I hope like you'll be
Yeah.
depressed. Get a rom com ready after this because you're gonna need it. But what
Yeah.
an unbelievable.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Anyway, so you guys should watch that Planet of the Humans. I look, and again, should you watch it and then just buy into everything that he says? No, I think you should go do your own homework. But sadly, I think that he's pretty stinking accurate and he seems to back it up. So whatever, worth watching. So hang on. So look, raising money in natural gas. What you're talking about here, you got the oil and gas guys. Let's just go the oil and gas guys and the pharmaceuticals. Actually, this is some bloody great advice, or at least I think so. Tell me what you guys think. Here's what happens. There's these types of industries where everybody on the inside wants out and everybody on the outside wants in. Okay, so like an example, like I live on a street and we got many doctors live on my street, right? You struggle to meet a doctor who doesn't want to start a business on the side or get out of practice entirely and start a company. Like it's ridiculously common. An example, it's an industry, they're on the inside and they want out, but those on the outside want to get in, right? And oil and gas can be a little bit similar. In fact, accountants also have, so I get lots of clients that are accountants that use our software and our membership sites and whatnot. Again, it's an industry where on the inside they want out and on the outside they want in. So here is so you're raising gas for you're raising money for a gas play, right? What you want to do is you got to go to because you need people with money, pretty straightforward, right? That we're looking to invest. Well, you don't. If I have a pharmaceutical play, I go to the oil and gas guys. And if I got an oil and gas play, then I go to the pharmaceutical guys. I go to the doctors and dentists. If you take a pharmaceutical play to doctors and dentists, you end up with a really long conversation and no money. Okay. And by the way, if you take a natural gas play, let's say to a oil tycoon, there's a good chance you're also going to get a very long conversation and no money. I think you guys understand what I mean by that, right? So what you do is you go. It's actually a common or a similar example I would give you is if I'm selling coaching. Let's say that I'm talking to a daycare, a chiropractor, a dentist. It doesn't matter what the niche is, but let's say a daycare. I will not pull out my daycare examples. And we have $50,000 marketing systems and 100 like in all these different categories of business. So if I have a $50,000 marketing system for a daycare and I'm talking to a daycare, normally logic would say that I would show them and then that's going to get the daycare super excited. Well, I do the exact opposite. I show the daycare the chiropractic turnkey and I show the chiropractor the daycare turnkey and I say, how would you like to be able to market your business like this? For the simple reason that they'll look at it and if they see anything that catches their eye that they don't agree with, that they have experience with, a great example will be like a chiropractor. Like a chiropractor should do massage, right? And by the way, they should also do 2-for-1 massage, free massage. That's their leverage. That's their like their advertising play, like their lead generation play to bring them in on massage and then bring them into chiropractic. Well, a lot of chiropractors, guess what? They've hired massage therapists, so they'll sit there and tell you all the reasons why it didn't work, won't work, and how you're out to lunch. Well, now their $50,000 marketing system that they're looking at isn't going to, you know what I mean? They're now not going to buy into it versus they know nothing about daycare. And I can go through and show them that, the number one hot button for a daycare is, because the mom is 36 years old, 2 kids under the age of 5, dropping her kids off, going to work, and she's going to be 30 minutes away from them. There's your ideal client for the daycare. Well, her major, major, major hot button, and they think that it's location and size of location and number of teachers or supervisors, this sort of thing. The major hot button is accountability, okay, by a freaking long shot. So imagine this, if you had a daycare and I had a daycare, your daycare had a web watch where the parents could log on the internet, watch the kids, make sure they're safe, having fun, and then at my daycare we didn't have a web watch. Where do you think she's going to take the kids? To the daycare with the web watch, right? That's what we call a market dominating position. You crush it. But the bottom line is that I could explain that to the chiropractor, and then he goes, oh, wow, cool. Like, you're so right, and I totally get it. Say, okay, well, how would you like us to work together, and we will come up with the equivalent of the web watch for you. And he goes, yes, please. And I say, okay, boom, it's going to be $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year. Let's rock and roll. When do we get started, right? Boom, I just got myself a chiropractic clinic. But if I go in and show him the assets for the same niche, it doesn't have the same power. He won't get the example on the same level. Anyway, so back to the example, the tips and tricks and whatnot. Yeah, you want to, you want to be thinking about going to, naturally, oil and gas guys will go to other oil and gas guys, which, by the way, it's not to say that you don't, but just do understand that there's a good chance you're going to end up with long conversations and no money. So, but hey, Road Dog, don't you got some experience with this? Do you not? Oil and gas? Like, I know you do.
Firsthand, and I'm involved in a bit of a natural gas play myself. But so again, like if you're looking to help your clients raise money, like anything, what are you selling? You're selling a story, right? Like you're selling an opportunity, but it's the story that goes behind it, and that's the part that I think a lot of people are sort of missing. It's like, well, like anything, it's people want to get excited about an opportunity of something that could become huge. And that's really what it is, especially when you, like, if we're specifically talking natural gas, I can go on and spout off about it because it's something that I know quite well. But, anything from, it's a cleaner alternative to, gasoline and diesel's cheaper, right? Like, so you can sell it. The beauty is you can sell it to the end consumer, which typically would be more of a business, right? And say, hey, you're going to save all this money, so that they're loving that. But then at the same time, it's also more efficient. Like if you actually, Carl, did you know, if you, for like the big rigs, if you have a natural gas diesel combo, it actually increases horsepower, and it is just the mileage that you get. It's insane, right? Like it's all of these little things that just make a really compelling argument and a compelling story that people want to hear. But anyways, there's that. There's going to be your natural gas haters. There's going to be your fossil fuel haters. I don't really care. It is what it is. If you're going to sell anything, you got to sell one hell of a story that people can really latch onto. So I'll just kind of leave it at that.
Beauty.
All right.
Beauty.
So here's a good one, actually. This question is very timely because one of my coaches actually just this could be from him. I have a client that sells skin cream. Any ideas on how to help her? Like, this is beauty because holy smokes, Carl, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. I have a feeling. What was the character on the old talk show where the hat comes down, the old Johnny Carson? What was that? You know who I'm talking about? The hat comes down on him, and he's just like the fortune teller of sorts. Anyways, I have a feeling that there's going to be an MLM component to what you're about to say, because when I think skincare, I'm like, oh my God, what, like, how much do I have to buy? And is there a timeshare involved?
Read my mind. Okay, so skincare. Well, one of the things that worries me about skincare is I'd want to see the greater business model, because remember, business is just math. right? In fact, I was helping a young guy in Australia, a kid I used to um, coach in hockey, and he's got going. And he's doing a journal and blah 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 blah. One of the things I just say to him, and I've said this multiple times to him. I literally said this to him this morning. Remember, business is just math. So if you've got too small of a unit of sale, right, you're not going to get, like, let's say your goal is to make $1 million, which, by the way, everybody's goal tends to be to make $1 million, which is the wrong and a ridiculous goal, because I know people who do $1 million and then lose 100 grand, and I know folks that do 500,000 and then make 250 profit, right? So you gotta realign that goal. But if you're selling skin cream, in fact, I think we went over this over the last couple of weeks, but bottom line, it's important, because, like, if you've got a unit of sale of, let's say, $1, you got to sell 1 million units. And then if you've got a unit of sale that's 100,000, you got to sell 10 units to hit $1 million, right? And then if you've got a $10,000 unit, what's that? 100. You got a $1,000 unit, you got to sell 1,000 units. You got a $100 unit, you got to sell 10. This is where I mean to go. You got a $100 unit, you got to go 10,000 units. You got a I've confused myself. It's like 10. If it's $100,000, it's 10 units. The bottom line, if you only needed to sell 10 units at $100,000 with knowing what the product is or the business is, do you need a secretary? Do you need dispatch? Are you going to be, super busy, invoicing and collecting money and accounts receivable a potential problem? Well, no. There's only 10 people you need to get money from, over the course of the year, right? But if you have a $10 unit and you have to sell 100,000 units without understanding what the product is, you got to move 100,000 of them. Do you need dispatch? You're going to have potentially an accounts receivable problem. Are you going to need trucks going in and out, logistics and all that sort of thing? And the answer is definitely. So with discrete skincare play, you've got to make sure that you've got a way to be able to sell packages of it and get that math working properly. Let's put it that way. And then an MLM. So I just road dog you again. You read my mind there. What I would be looking at and what has done very successfully in that space is like the MLM model, where, like, mom invites all her buds over. They're in the kitchen, they're trying the cream, and then, there's lingerie plays, and there's this play and that play for, different clothing and whatever else, and they bring in models, and frankly, it works really well. And that's the kind of model that I would probably go to. But bottom line, I want to make sure that everybody's going into this with their eyes wide open, that if they're not capitalized, like, why do MLMs fall over so religiously? You ever notice that? Well, let me tell you why. They actually fall over. Understanding, I want you to think of compound interest. Well, compounding happens in all different areas, including knowledge, right? Like, if you guys get my daily emails, the reason I send out a daily email is that I just try to learn one thing on business, marketing, or wealth every single day. And then I have found that over a course of a number of years, it just compound. Now it's like, holy smokes. When I take one new little bit of knowledge and I'm putting it all on top of all those other lessons, it can be, sometimes it's a nothing burger, and then sometimes it can be somewhat profound because I add a couple of them together, right? What am I getting? Why does an MLM fall over? The answer is compounding. So what happens is they get to a certain point where they're signing up agents. All of a sudden, those agents actually start to sell. And then it starts to compound, and they are not ready for it. They're not capitalized. All of a sudden, they get all of these orders, like a huge amount of orders over a short period of time. They don't have time, like, they don't have the money and the staff, and they weren't ready for that compound effect, which, if you understand compounding, it happens real fast in a big way. So they're not ready for it. Everybody sent in their orders. Everybody's paid. The MLM doesn't deliver. And frankly, they don't get a second chance at it. And that's it. The whole thing falls over. It's done. It's dusted. Game over. Everybody moves on to a different MLM. And so that flies in the face, or an example of what I said earlier. Like, when you're selling a heap of units, it doesn't matter if it's skin cream, lingerie, whatever. If they're low units of sale and you're trying to hit big numbers, you're going to need to have some serious systems in place, which cost money. to manage, and a lot of the time they are not ready for it. And when it starts to work, it really starts to work. So anyway, so just making sure their eyes are wide open there, and that they grow. Like I often talk about this. Like we've got a heavyweight guy that came on with us recently, and he's like, "Look, Carl, I will send you 100 people in a month." And I said to him, "You're not allowed to send me 100 people in a month." Because I have a model and I'm very happy with that model. And yes, we are growing, but I am the tortoise, not the hare. And I'm just going to consistently grow at a level that I am happy with on a week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter basis. And right now we've got these crazy times amongst us. Again, you got to make sure you're looking after your existing clients as opposed to worrying too much about signing everybody else up. No doubt you guys get the 101 business principle there. Something to think about. So, the bottom line is that you want, like growing like a tortoise and not a hare, and controlled growth, intentionally and strategic controlled growth, very seldom talk about, even less of the time that it's actually done and followed through, but something to really, keep a handle on. So that's my advice for that one, Road Dog. I hope that helps. But the MLM model, to your point when you first started, is running parties is not a bad. And you don't need to be an MLM to do the party model successfully, right? Like that can be done with any business. Like a realtor can do the party model ridiculously successfully. It doesn't need to be an MLM to do the party model. But there's my answer on the skin cream.
You know what I love about MLMs, Carl?
What?
Not being in one.
What? Yeah, no doubt. I know, man. You can imagine.
I get it. Talk about selling a story of how to get rich without really doing anything and all this residual income stuff. How about you just stop and just seriously, like you can go out and get one coaching client and you'd make at least 12 grand a year. Or you could go out and sell your skin cream or miracle shake and have to sell 1,000 of them and make $100 a month. Like, anyways, that's a whole nother rant. I guess my true character's coming out, folks. If you're offended, go ahead and send me an email. I'll go ahead and put it right in the recycling bin. On that note, any closing remarks from the man on the top of the hill?
Any closing remarks? I think that was good. I think the oil and gas, the artificial intelligence, again, is something that I think everybody should be having a good look at. I just think from a macro. We're all locked in our freaking houses. It's frustrating for all of us. A little bit crazy. Whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, you're not going to be able to change it. So make sure you're making the best of it and spend some time, on a macro level, really learning a few things. And artificial intelligence, you don't need to learn it at a really intimate level, but I think getting to know it a little bit, and those other macro principles like the oil and gas and the natural gas play, like just understanding that whole, the dynamic of where it's going, and even watching that Planet of the Humans, I think is a great idea. But yeah, man, just thinking on a macro level while you're hunkered down there in your house and helping businesses as much as you can, but also thinking on a macro level for your own knowledge so you can help people in the best way moving forward. There you go. That's what I got, man.
Thank you, sir. Not only are you one hell of a business coach, you're a registered beautician. I thank you for your input today, my friend. And thanks, everybody, for tuning into another fantastic episode of Business Coaching Secrets with my boy, King Karl. Again, if you want more info on how to build your coaching business, visit focused.com. And, of course, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with any sort of existing coach or someone that you think might be a fantastic coach, someone like you and I. And, of course, we'd appreciate if you could rate the episode as well. If you found any value in it, please leave us some positive reviews because, again, the iTunes of the world give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So we'll leave it at that, folks. Hope you have another fantastic week. And remember, everybody, progress equals happiness.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.